I'm Jeff Cornwall, and this is the Entrepreneurial Mind. Today, our guest is Marcus Whitney. We'll be back to talk with him about Moon Toast in just a moment.
Talkopolis, the social media TV network for your city.
Welcome, Marcus.
Hey, Doc, how are you?
Doing great. Glad to have you here.
Good to be here.
I certainly know the story of Moon Toast, but why don't you give a brief history of kind of where you came from? Because it looked a whole lot different the first time I heard about Moon Toast than it does today.
Sure. So it all started with the fascination I have with online marketing and really, the way that brands can engage with consumers online. I worked at Emma, as you know.
Right.
I was chief architect there for 4 years. And in 2007, I went to my first South by Southwest festival. And it wasn't the year that Twitter launched, but it was really the year that Twitter broke out.
Right.
And just having that real world experience of how mobile devices and a social network could actually drive the behavior of people in a community. So, we started following certain kind of popular geeks, and
Right.
they would kind of say, hey, the party's at Iron Cactus, and we would all end up going there. And, ultimately that meant that was where our dollars were going.
Right.
And so, I had this epiphany that, okay, this is clearly this new form of marketing that at some point brands are going to figure out, and very, very different from email marketing. There was this thing in email marketing we always tried to kind of push, was called forward to a friend, right? And you'll see it in every email marketing campaign.
Right.
But the numbers are generally speaking pretty low on that. And it's this idea that if you can get, an individual to endorse what the brand is saying, then it's going to be a much more powerful sell.
Right.
And here you had this platform that was enabling people to broadcast their own message, and inadvertently they were, promoting a brand.
Right.
And so,
but early on, everybody got it wrong.
I think we figured it out pretty quickly, right? I think
not
you're
you
right.
guys, but I think a lot of the traditional marketers got it wrong. They
Yeah.
didn't understand what they were doing.
Totally. Well, think about it. They were coming from mediums of broadcast where it was very one way, and
Right.
the impression was king. And whether it was print or television or billboard or radio, there was no feedback loop, right? So if you control, and there also was no user-generated content. There weren't pre-YouTube and things like that. So literally, like if you were able to get a video impression out there, you had already beaten the majority of your competition, because many of them just could not afford to do that.
Right.
And we quickly have kind of moved into this era where everyone has got a personal studio in their pocket, and whether it's an audio bite or a video bite or just a quick text blurb, they can get it out there and into the ether, and we found people who have become very, very successful with that. And so it's been a very disruptive 10 years for brands, no question.
Do you think it's one of the things I've wondered about is whether it is that consumers have changed so much, or whether you guys have helped shape consumer expectations? Because I'm of the generation where if the ad came up and it was static and we saw it, we believed it.
Right.
And even if we said we didn't, we'd still buy those products, and it worked. It was simple.
Right.
That doesn't work with especially the younger generations today. They need that interactivity, they need that genuineness to make it work. And I kind of wondered which caused which. Have you guys pondered that at all, or don't you really care?
No. I think if you want to be around long enough, you need to care about it.
Right.
I think it's a generational kind of movement. First and foremost, I think we came out of the industrial era and we went into the knowledge era, and factories started shutting down, and why were we going to school? We were going to school to either be doctors, lawyers, or to be some type of creative.
Right. Right.
People didn't really see it that way, but that's really what it was.
Sure.
It became all about innovation, and I think as people realized that you weren't going to have lifelong jobs, you'd probably have 20 jobs before you ultimately retired, and what that really looks like. We all have this yearning now to create, and we also grew up with way more media than previous generations did. So we were consuming and watching people become stars right before our eyes, and then they started then we started having tools. Computers have just enabled all of us to create in a way that I think previous generations would have had they had the same level of media indoctrination and the same type of motivations as a generation. But I think previous generations were focused on getting long careers, and it just was a different time. It was it was a different time. It was a different time.
So back to Moon Toast. You guys, you were really pioneers in this field. And,
Thank you.
and that's exciting, but it's also frightening because you know there's a lot of bodies of pioneers in the ditches along the way.
Yeah, I was too dumb to know that.
Well, I don't think so. I don't think so, because you guys have not only survived, but you're thriving now. I mean,
Yeah.
what was the secret to that? How did you guys become one of the not only survivors but leaders in the field?
So I mean, I actually will credit our CEO with a good bit of this. So you know, my inclination was to innovate at the intersection of social and marketing and commerce, right?
Sure.
I mean, I believe that there was an opportunity there, and I was pretty hell bent on building out some technology to solve that problem. And we would always kind of, one thing we always did as a company was we always had great results.
Right.
If anybody used our technology the way that we said, we would drive great results. That doesn't mean the market is ready to embrace your business and help it grow
or understand it,
right? And we dealt with a lot of that, as you know, in the first kind of 2 years of the business. And so I think, you know, one of the things that that Blair Heavey, who's our CEO, really kind of helped me to do from a mentorship perspective is, you know, drove me to take more meetings, to fly to more cities, to meet more people, to, you know, get in front of more brands than I would have done on my own.
So the old-fashioned, you need to listen to your customers.
Totally,
yeah.
Totally. Getting out there, you know, and I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that, you know, this company from Nashville, you know, now has offices in Boston and San Francisco. You know, we're a Facebook preferred marketing developer. We've got, you know, clients like Toyota and Nestle. I mean, you know, it's not a typical Nashville startup story, but I think a lot of it is, you know, 175 days on the road every year, you know, getting in front of these people and, you know, preaching the gospel of social activation and, you know, where everything is going. And you know, honestly, it's turned out to be right. I mean, we always knew that the news feed was going to be the big deal. We never kind of followed where most of the other social companies were in terms of building apps on tabs. We just felt like that's like the old web. Just you know, you're just building, you know, you're building a little website and a portal. Like that's not what this is about. This is about this constant stream of you know, news and information that's coming to you. And
that's the content that today's generation believes too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it didn't start with, you know, Facebook. I mean, you know, the RSS feed and Dave Weiner and those guys. I mean, like this was, you know, this has been a revolution and an evolution developing, you know, easily for the last 10 years, if not more, right?
So one of the things that would drive me nuts if I was sitting in your chair is, you know, you're not landing this jet every day onto a nice static runway. You're going onto an aircraft carrier, and it's moving, and it's pitching, and it's rolling, and it's changing directions. I mean, Facebook is continually evolving as a business model, and who knows what's going to happen to Twitter now.
Right.
How do you guys keep up and stay relevant?
You know, again, you know, I mean, I remember the very first time that I was on Facebook's campus, and I was pretty mystified, I think, as any kind of, you know, bright-eyed startup founder would be the first time you walk on a campus like that. And I inadvertently had a meeting with a gentleman. His name is Gokul Rajaram. He was running the ads product at Facebook. Prior to that, he ran AdWords at Google, and now he's running product at Square. All right, I didn't know who this guy was, right? You know what I mean? Like in context. I mean, now I totally know everything about him, but it's just you just don't know what you don't know, and so you're just out there, you're pushing, you're meeting people, and you're learning, and you're bringing that feedback back to the team, and you're iterating, and you know, we just kept pushing. We ended up getting you know, signing a deal with Procter & Gamble and doing some great campaigns, and that got us in a situation where we had the credentials to really become a preferred marketing developer with Facebook, and that has increased our visibility into where Facebook is going as a company, and so we're able to stay much more aligned with their roadmap. I also think when they went public, it was helpful for everybody, right? I mean, prior to that, you had people speculating they were going to become a commerce company, or they were going to run the table on social games. I mean, you know, for a while, everyone thought social games was going to be the thing, right? And I think once
Thank God it wasn't.
Thank God it wasn't. Yeah, that is not a sustainable business. It's a hard business.
Yeah.
You know, there's
only so many farm animals to go around.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Once they went public, it became clear, like they were going to be, you know, an advertising platform, you know, and And I think people started to kind of put it
So
together.
that publicness gave them a certain stability that they had to have, because they had to grow up and be a real business at that
Yeah,
point.
but it also gave us visibility. As companies that were building on their platform, we
Right.
can now align ourselves with their revenue, right? I mean,
Right.
that's a big deal. You know, you don't want to think that they're going in one direction and ultimately they go in another, and then you're on the street.
Do you have a sense of what the landscape is going to be in that space? At one point there were a lot of casualties along the way, and it seems that Facebook is pretty well entrenched and Google's pretty well entrenched. Do you see those just gaining more and more market share and becoming more and more dominant, or?
Well, they're certainly way in the lead right now.
Yeah.
And Twitter is actually doing very, very well as well right now. The way that I look at it is, the same thing I kind of realized at South by Southwest in 2007 is still happening. Mobile device proliferation and the time that consumers are spending on mobile devices as a medium is, people spend more time on mobile devices than on desktops and laptops.
Right.
And that's only going to continue to grow. Right. People spend more times on social networks than they do on portals and websites. That's only going to continue to grow, right? Facebook is about 25% of all time that consumers spend on mobile devices in the U.S.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Right? So you go ahead and add in Instagram, Twitter, and Vine, and what do you think that number looks like, right? You're getting close to 50%. You're not there, but you're getting close to 50% of all the time on mobile devices in like 4 apps. Right? So it's this social mobile revolution, and what do all those apps have in common? It's a feed experience of user-generated content.
Right.
And brands now have to inject themselves into that experience.
And I think the plays in the future are not going to be all those entrants trying to come and displace them, and there have been some, and some pretty weird ones, and complicated ones.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be people like you who come in and understand how to take advantage of the wave that they're creating and ride that wake. So
there's a lot of disruption, but there's also a lot of things that are not going to change, right?
Right. There's some stability in
There's
this
some
industry.
stability, right?
Yeah.
This is a digital advertising play at the end of the day, right? There's a lot of money in digital advertising. There's a lot of money in display advertising. Now that money is going to shift from desktop banner ads and annoying kind of flash-rich media to really beautiful, mobile, responsive, elegant experiences on mobile devices and social networks, right? But it's still the same money. It's still the same money, right? So now, what's great about Moon Toast is we've hung on long enough to be able to understand that, to understand where the channels are headed, and understand what nomenclature we need to use, right? So social rich media, it's an ad format that we created, but it is an evolution of a previously existing ad format, right? So it's an iteration and an evolution. It's not this totally brand new thing. And when we go out to market and we talk about it, it's like, oh yeah, social rich media. I get it. I get it.
Well, it has been a joy to watch your journey, and I can't wait to see where you go next.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Doc.